The 2015 election season has come and gone, but ripples of a hangover of an intense power play continues to dictate the pace in some quarters. Today, all eyes is on May 29 as Nigerians eagerly await a seamless transition. Welcome to Question Time. I'm Benga Ashiru. You may also join in this conversation by sending us your comments on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. As world leaders continue to commend the last elections and calling on other African nations to emulate the conduct of elections in Nigeria, the discontent and accusations of election irregularities in some quarters can't be swept under the carpet. While we might have had the umpire's recount of Nigeria's 2015 elections, that's talking about Professor Atahiru Jega, the national chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Now, what is the international scorecard of Nigeria's election? A lot of accolades have also come the way of Mr. President Goodluck Jonathan, on his prompt concession of defeat to the President-elect, General Muhammadu Buhari. But could there be more to this as earlier speculated in some quarters? Find out from the European Union Head of Delegation to Nigeria, Ambassador Michel Arian, in this exclusive interview.
Well, I would say like many Nigerians and even many Africans, we are absolutely delighted by, I wouldn't say by the result itself, but rather by the process which led to a very peaceful handover of power and a peaceful transition through the ballot boxes. So I think Nigeria has really experienced the fantastic event, and we are all very happy, despite the fact that we unfortunately had to recognize a few victims, and even one victim is too many. So we very much regret the loss of lives by a few people, but certainly much less than 4 years ago, for instance.
Would you say the voting pattern fell on party lines or that of ethnic lines?
Well, it remains to be analyzed. What we can see, certainly, again, we don't have the final and official results, and I think the situation is different if you compare the presidential with the gubernatorials. I think we have today a clear majority for APC and for President Buhari, but if you compare the numbers between the elections in 2011 with 2015, you see that 10 million voters less have voted this time. So what does explain this reduction of 10 million voters? A lot of factors can explain that. Partly, probably, the figures of 2011 were inflated, but also I think some people have not voted for PDP, while at the same time they haven't voted for APC either, so they haven't gone to the polling stations.
What are your comments about the states that were declared inconclusive?
Well, indeed, one has to make the distinction between the general and presidential elections with those gubernatorial elections. Well, it's quite normal. Out of 29 elections, 2 or 3 are inconclusive for either technical reasons. Some pollings have been cancelled. Some results couldn't be declared. So, by a simple application of the law, there will be a rerun.
Can you say Nigeria's democracy has actually come of age?
Oh yes, well, it's always impossible. It's always possible to improve, and there is always room for improvement, certainly. But I would say after those elections, the democracy in Nigeria is certainly strengthened. And I would go further. It's not only in Nigeria; it's in Africa. I think Nigerians have really given an example to follow by many other countries who will go through election processes this year. So the first word that comes to my mind is certainly congratulations, not only to the politicians but also the to the populace, the population, the citizens of Nigeria. So it was quite interesting to see. I just participated in some watching of the elections. It was very nice to see Nigerian voters just queuing in calm and participating, and also observers from civil society just looking at each and every polling station, also in the collation center. So I think there was a very good ownership by the citizens of those elections, despite the relatively low turnout.
What are those factors you think are responsible for the low turnout, for the relatively low turnout in some areas?
Not only seen from the candidates, from the point of view of the candidates, where some candidates, have realigned themselves, but also from the voters. The voters have realized that perhaps it was more important to vote for the candidate of the party that had won the presidential elections. That can have an effect. And that is why you know that some time ago, if I'm not mistaken, the local and gubernatorial elections were taking place before the presidential. In some countries, you start building the electoral process with the local, the gubernatorial, and then the presidential. In other countries, you start from the top and then you go down. So there are pros and cons in the two systems.
We'll be taking a break now, and when we come back, we'll be looking at Ambassador Michel Arians, the head of EU delegation to Nigeria, and also the ambassador of EU to Nigeria, his assessment of how the elections played out in the Northeast and the EU mandate or the expectations of the European Union on the incoming government of Nigeria. Join us again.